What's up, Internet Basketball Junkies? Today we're going to look at a drill we call lanes progression. This is primarily an individual defense drill with some ball handling and finishing applications later in the progression. We like to use this drill often with teams that press, particularly man-to-man pressing teams. We also like to use this drill during tryouts to be able to evaluate players on their defense and their ball handling in space. What you're watching now is the first phase of the drill. These are dry defensive slides. This is a phase A segment of the drill, meaning it is performed on air with no defense. There are two purposes to the initial phase of this progression. One, to get the body warmed up and muscles activated. Two, to refine and master technique. If your players are already warmed up and you feel good about their technique, you could obviously skip this segment, but I always felt like I wanted to reinforce technique to some extent, and the phase only took a minute to get through. The technique we are reinforcing is the step slide to avoid crossing the feet and the drop step to open the hips and change direction. We usually had players go through once sliding to hit the boundary and then reverse pivoting into a defensive slide, replicating cutting off a dribbler and continuing to cover in a neutral position, and then going through a second time, sliding to the boundary and transitioning into a sprint, replicating that the change of direction created an advantage for the ball handler that we had to make up by sprinting to beat him to the spot in recovery. We move on to the next phase of the drill, which is a guided one-on-one. So players are now allowed to pair up instead of being solo. It is a phase B drill because the coach is guiding the ball handler. The ball handler is going maybe 60 to 70% of full speed and trying to go boundary to boundary, which is 1/3 of the court in this phase. The ball handler is not trying to blow by the defender, just refine his dribbling skills and give the defender a body to work against. If the ball handler does beat the defender, he is advised to slow down and let the defender catch back up. The defender is not allowed to use his hands in this phase. He is purely working on sitting down in a stance, the footwork required to cut off a dribbler, and changing directions quickly. We want to narrow down his focus and give him less to concentrate on so he can singularly focus on moving his feet properly to cut off the defender. The defender wants to try to keep his nose on the ball, sitting in a stance and manipulating the ball handler through his positioning. The defender wants to stay in the ball handler's bubble, meaning the ball handler feels some pressure from the defender. If the defender is 8 feet away, he is just reacting to the offensive player, but if he's in the bubble, he can turn him with his chest and manipulate him with his positioning. In the next phase of the drill, we add the ability for the defender to use his hands. This doesn't just mean now he can reach for steals. It means we are adding the implementation of the inside armbar technique. This is a technique to help use the defender's body weight to manipulate the dribbler without causing fouls to be called. With the inside armbar, the player puts his lead hand out to show the officials he doesn't have two hands on the dribbler and to potentially deflect the pitch ahead passes. His trail hand becomes the inside armbar, which locks into the dribbler. This armbar should lock tight to the defender's body, creating a force from the body weight of the defender that can slow down and manipulate the offensive player. The dribbler is still guided, so this is a phase B segment of the drill, but he may now go 80 to 90% of full speed. He wants to challenge the defender with his change of pace and change of direction moves, but again, if he beats the defender cleanly, he wants to slow down and allow him to get back in front. Now that the defenders have access to use their hands, we not only want to implement the inside armbar technique, but we want to create habits for not reaching for steals. If the offense puts the ball in front of the defender, we want the defender to be able to take it, but we don't want them to be lunging out of their defensive stance to take high risks for steals. Our primary job is to cover the dribbler, not to steal the ball. We now are going to move into the live phase of the drill. The offense and defense are both 100% live, and there is no boundary, using the entire length and width of the court. This is a phase C drill, meaning we are applying the skills that we've learned in phases A and B into live play. In this initial segment of the live drill, we instruct the ball handler that he is not allowed to use change of pace moves, only change of direction. We want the ball handler to develop his change of direction moves, and we want the on-ball defender to develop his technique of turning his step slide into a sprint when it's needed to get back in front of the ball handler. The ball handler does not slow up if he beats the defender. He goes on to finish. In this part of the progression, we want to emphasize to the offensive player that he needs to take pride in his shot creation at the end of the rep. Players are getting tired playing full court one-on-one, and it's easy to just flip something up at the end of the rep. We want the offensive player to develop their shot selection and their shot creation, working hard at the end of the rep to create space to get off a quality shot. For the defender, we not only focus on the step slide, inside arm bar, and pivoting to change direction, but we add contesting shots. Just as the offense is trying to generate space to get off a good shot and work on their shot creation and shot selection, the defender is working on contesting the best that they can without fouling. This starts by defending to the point that the defender's chest is in between the ball and the basket when the offensive player attempts to shoot the ball. If the defender is in between the ball and the basket at the time of the shot attempt, that is a job well done. With great positioning, we can concentrate on the details of finishing the contest. The number one objective of the defender is to not foul the offensive player. Make him earn his basket by putting the ball through the hoop instead of bailing him out with a foul. So without fouling, we want to put our hands vertical and reach high with a strong chest. We don't want to jump and try to block the shot. We don't want to jump up in the air and swipe at the ball. We want to stay attached to the floor with our hands up and put pressure on the offensive player with our lower body. We teach elbows to ears as a teaching point to help players connect the idea of where we want their hands when the shot goes up. Our hands cannot be on the offensive player when he goes to shoot the ball. They have to be up in the air. We finish the one-on-one segment of the drill completely live. Everything stays the same except the offensive player is now allowed to use the change of pace moves as well as change of direction moves to move down the court. The shot creation emphasis for the offense and the shot contest emphasis for the defense are still present. We now move to the overload phase of the drill. We call this portion of the drill 2v1 roundup. Players are now going in groups of 3 and they rotate who is the ball handler. The defenders work as a unit, not to let the ball handler escape. Again, getting a steal is great, but primarily we want to cover the ball and maintain our edge to keep the ball handler confined. Since there's 2 defenders and 1 offensive player, there's a penalty to the defense if the offense scores. We usually do 20 push-ups to both defenders if they get scored on as a unit. Usually we would have a coach standing near the basket that the offensive player is trying to score on, holding up fingers. The ball handler would identify the number of fingers and verbally call out how many fingers the coach is holding up to ensure that he is looking up the court as he dribbles. This adds a very challenging layer to the ball handler's responsibilities in this drill. The offensive player has a penalty for trying to split the defenders, only if he fails. We believe splitting a trap is a low percentage choice, so they are free to attempt it, but owe us 20 push-ups if they turn the ball over in the process. We want the dribbler to attempt to beat the edge of the defensive unit. If he attempts and gets rebuffed, we want him to back dribble to create space and then make another change of pace or change of direction move to attempt to break the edge again. This teaches the offensive player patience and making higher percentage choices. It's easy to just try to split the defense and live with the risk or the reward. It's harder to patiently work up the court looking for the edge to break through. Again, we want the offensive player to work on his shot creation. In a 2v1 setting, this can be very difficult. Instead of just throwing up a shot because the player is tired, we want him to end the possession by making a quality attack move and try to create space to get a good shot off. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and make sure you hit the bell to get notifications on future videos. Also, take a peek at my Selfie store for more detailed basketball coaching content. I have thorough materials on many topics, including a 1-3-1 trap, the Euro ball screen offense, a diamond press, how to build a youth program, how to build a strength training program, how to fundraise for high school basketball, and much, much more. And you can find my email on the last screen or in the description. Shoot me an email if you have any questions about the content you're seeing here. We now move into the final segment of this progression. It is another overload segment. We called this 2-on-1 get open. We used a coach to pass the ball in, and we started with 2 defenders sandwiching the offensive player. The offensive player had to cut to get open to receive the ball. We wanted the offensive player to catch the ball on 2 feet and pivot to face up the court upon receiving the ball. We did not want him just to rush into a momentum dribble, again, emphasizing safe decision making. We are live from this point with the same conditions as the previous 2-on-1 segment. I have to say I love this progression. It teaches a lot of stuff. defensive technique, ball handling, shot creation, shot contesting, getting open, etc. When we have pressing teams, we use this more often, especially man-to-man pressing teams. For 15 minutes of practice time, I think the drill progression is very productive. You can use it with just your guards in a guard post breakdown portion of practice or your entire team in a team defense portion of practice. Again, this was always a drill that we used during tryouts, being able to evaluate how players play in space as an offensive player and as a defensive player. Coaches, let me know in the comments what you thought of this drill. Is there any tweaks that we could add to the drill to make it better? Is there any phases that you would eliminate from the drill? What could we do differently to help make the players learn more from the drill? If you want a copy of the diagrams of these practice drills, shoot me an email. You can find my email on the last screen to close the video. If you have any suggestions for future content, I'd love to see that on a comment below or in an email sent to my inbox. Let me know what you'd like to see. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and make sure you hit the bell to get notifications on future videos. Also, take a peek at my Self-Fi store for more detailed basketball coaching content. I have thorough materials on many topics, including a 1-3-1 trap, the Euro ball screen offense, a diamond press, how to build a youth program, how to build a strength training program, how to fundraise for high school basketball, and much, much more. And you can find my email on the last screen or in the description. Shoot me an email if you have any questions about the content you're seeing here. Thanks for breaking down this drill with me. Stay tuned for more drills, schemes, sets, and much, much more.